think a lot of people thought of Donald Trump as an isolationist and wanting to make the U.S. presence in the world smaller. We're now talking about potential occupation of the Gaza Strip, which has caused Israel to be at war in Gaza even before October 7th of the October 7th attacks. We're talking about the United States taking that position of occupation.
Joyless Reed on MSDNC having another mental episode, which means it's a day of the week for her. Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, they hear fragments of sentences. They read a portion of a headline, and then their little tiny demented minds are made up. Joyless, racist, anti-Semite Reed. Did she then break into chants of "From the river to the sea, Palestine must be free"? Womp, womp, womp. A good Wednesday to you, and welcome back once again. We continue to be reachable at 888-630-9625. The Democrats are having mental meltdowns all over the place over USAID. Oh, no, the Chinese are going to start funding transgender plays in Ireland if we don't. How's that? You think the Chinese are going to fund transgender plays in Ireland if we don't? What is the... I don't think they are. And if they are, okay, because it'll drive the Irish away from the Chinese. That's how that ought to work. Anyway, the front page of the Washington Times today. The photographs are of Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And the headline is, Senate Republicans holdouts fall in line for cabinet. Path cleared for Gabbard, Kennedy. And that's not John Kennedy from Louisiana, the senator, but Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose father was shot and killed by Sirhan Sirhan, who's still alive and well, eating culturally sensitive meals in a prison in California, even though he made parole long ago. But never mind that. And the headline below that, Trump floats U.S. takeover, renovation of Gaza. He's really a renovator from way back. He is a construction guy. You know what he did to his daughter, actually did it, but he was behind it. The takeover of the old post office pavilion in Washington, D.C., converted into the most beautiful hotel, and literally the most beautiful hotel in Washington, D.C. It became the Trump International Hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. It's no longer the Trump International Hotel. It was taken over by the Waldorf Astoria. I think they've bankrupted it already, though. We're hoping that the Trump family takes it over again, because it is the greatest room in Washington where you can get a drink. There are a lot of great rooms in Washington. Most of them don't have bars. But the lobby of the old post office pavilion, Trump Hotel, now the Waldorf Astoria, greatest room in Washington. It's not the Supreme Court, but it is. They don't serve drinks as a rule in the Supreme Court. So we've got that. Also, kind of an amazing story on the front page of the Washington Times today about the Washington, D.C. City Council. You remember our great friend Trayon White of the Washington, D.C. City Council, who made a video of himself driving along in his automobile on the highway, very brief stretch of highway that we have in Washington. And it was snowing a bit outside, and he started ranting about how the Jews make it snow.
Man, it just started snowing out of nowhere this morning, man. Y'all better pay attention to this climate control, man. It's climate manipulation, and D.C. keep talking about we're a resilient city. And that's a model based off the Rothschilds controlling the climate to create natural disasters. They can pay for it and own the cities, man. Be careful.
Yeah, be careful. Well, it turns out, according to the FBI, that Trayon White, Democrat, how did Joe Biden describe Barack Obama again? The first mainstream black guy to come along. Isn't that, and what did he say about him in his... Because had some really insulting, racist things to say about Barack Obama?
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African-American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
Yeah, the reporter's like, yeah, it's a storybook, man. It's a storybook, man. Well, Trayon White is not that man. Trayon White is not that, not even close. The city council ousts White over bribery accusations. Ward 8 council member first to be expelled. Now, the D.C. City Council yesterday voted unanimously on Tuesday to expel Ward 8 Democrat Trayon White from office, making him the first member in modern history to be removed from the legislative body after his colleagues said his federal bribery charges became a drain on public trust. You think? The D.C. City Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, a left-wing radical, at-large Democrat, called the vote after council members expressed concern that Mr. White damaged the council's integrity. No kidding. By allegedly agreeing to pocket up to $165,000 in exchange for influencing government contracts. Why would that be a problem? But here's the funny thing. Now they got to call a special election to replace him because he's been expelled. But he's eligible to run for re-election, and he doubtless will. And I'll go ahead and bet right now that he wins again very handily, if not in an absolute landslide, then very handily for sure. But back to the politics for a moment, because that's just an amusing Democrat story of racism and anti-Semitism, and they deny science. I wonder if he knows how many genders there are. He probably does, I'm thinking. Unlike Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court, for example. But in politics, Republican holdouts fall in line for cabinet, path cleared for Gabbard Kennedy. Chances of the Senate voting down any of President Trump's cabinet-level nominees have all but evaporated as initially skeptical Republicans are aligning with his most unconventional picks. They're both Democrats, by the way, Tulsi Gabbard and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. At least they have been all of their adult lifetimes. Perhaps they switched recently like Ronald Reagan did and like Elon Musk did. And as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. said a while back, his father and his uncle would find today's Democrat Party unrecognizable, and that's 100% true. The Washington Times again, the suspense diminished significantly Tuesday as Republicans banded together to advance the nominations of two former Democrats, Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Health Secretary. That's, Department of Health and Human Services Secretary. They were rewarded for supporting Mr. Trump. Well, it's early in the game, but okay. Ms. Gabbard, a former House member from Hawaii, quit the Democratic Party in 2022 to become an independent and then joined the Republican Party in 2024 to support Mr. Trump. Mr. Kennedy, a scion of the famous Democratic family, abandoned the party to launch, and this is great stuff, an independent bid for president, but ultimately dropped out and endorsed Mr. Trump. Now, the Democrat Party did everything they could to destroy him, and they're not done yet. They're continuing. Both nominees faced united opposition from Democrats, the goose-stepping, hobnailed boot gang of, what were they called? The Winky Guard. They're like the Winky Guard, the Democrat Party, right? What's the Winky Guard, Michael? You may know them. Do you know what the Winky Guard? No, Jasmine doesn't know. It's the guys from The Wizard of Oz. You know, the OEO guys. OEO. That's the Democrat, and they march along together, and they got their big pointy spears and lances and things. And that's the Democrat Party. They always goose step together because they're always on the same page on every single issue ever, and they never disagree on anything. And they will all uniformly, like the Gestapo that they are, every filthy one of them will vote the same way on every issue. And they'll all vote against RFK Jr. They'll all vote against Tulsi Gabbard, even though Kennedy family, Tulsi Gabbard, Democrat, member of the House and all that. Both nominees faced united opposition from Democrats on the respective committees of jurisdiction and had to make commitments to Republican holdouts to earn their votes. But they're now on a glide path to confirmation. Now, this is pretty good stuff. And, politics in Washington and the age of Trump and Democrats defecting from the Democrat Party. Ms. Gabbard and Mr. Kennedy were two of Mr. Trump's most unconventional picks, and that's a fact, Jack, I've got to say. Along with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who earned just enough Republican support for confirmation last month when Vice President J.D. Vance stepped in to break a tie. Now, you may remember that when Kamala Harris was vice president, she broke the record in the history of the United States for breaking ties in the Senate because the Democrats couldn't get any support for their crazy stuff from rational people and other Republicans. See, I said rational people and other Republicans. Isn't that amazing? So we got that going on. Just crazy. And President Trump also on the commentary page, the editorial page of the Washington Times today. The America First approach to reclaiming U.S. leadership in Latin America. Decades of U.S. neglect has allowed adversaries to exploit regional vulnerabilities. And that's true. And the Trump administration is down there getting Panama to start behaving, Mexico to start behaving, Colombia, Venezuela. You will start taking your gang members back. And now the Trump administration tapping the brakes again. Not only is Mexico going to send another 10,000 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border to control the flow of illegal aliens and drugs, but we've announced now that if you're a bad guy from one of these B-pole countries, that we may send you to Gitmo. And flights have already gone from the United States to Gitmo with illegal alien criminals, gang members, convicted criminals in their home countries and in our country. The Democrats want to let them all loose in your daughter's junior high school because they're mentally deranged and they're not on our side. But when you announce, oh, yeah, by the way, you're a gang member, you come to the United States, the Trump administration arrests you, and we may send you to Gitmo. This is not going to be a cakewalk. And the numbers have already dropped precipitously of illegal aliens coming to our southern border to sneak illegally into the country to become Democrats, right? And the numbers, again, if you look at the graph now, the border numbers are just dropping like nobody's business. And the graphic looks like a ski slope. Here's Joe Biden, the Biden administration. How many millions and millions of illegals were waved into the country by the dirty Democrats who are not on our side? And Joe Biden and all these people. Wah, wah, wah. Here is News Nation headline. Southwest border encounters drop nearly 75% since inauguration. And watch them drop even more precipitously now. Mexico is starting to control the border from their side, sending another 10,000 troops. We announced, and then there are planes going with illegal aliens arrested here, sent to Guantanamo Bay, where, you're going to be beaten up by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Remarkable stuff. So the Trump administration taking control and reestablishing America as the preeminent power in the Western Hemisphere and in the Americas, kind of the same thing, more or less, and on planet Earth, because planet Earth without the United States of America, which is what we had for 4 years of the Biden administration, means war in Europe, war in the Middle East, open borders, cultures dying, being murdered because the left is here, and boy, are they not on our side. Border crossings dropped to historic lows under Donald Trump administration. And that's the Times of India, out of India, the empire. I'm telling you.
And Texas DPS just released new numbers showing that illegal crossings continue to decrease. DPS says they only had 446 encounters on Monday. That is the lowest they have seen in years, Brett. In years,
Brett. Brett Baer, Fox News, and that's the lowest we've seen in years, Brett. Why? Because, there are adults in charge. And They have an interest in controlling our border. They have an interest in American sovereignty. And the corrupt, anti-American, Democrat, criminal cabal was deliberately inflicting harm on our country for 4 years while the filthies in the news media turned a blind eye to everything that we were seeing. Why weren't they seeing it? Well, they were. They're just that corrupt. Extraordinary. We've got a little Stephen Colbert. Also, President Trump and the Super Bowl. What's going on with that Super Bowl this weekend? I've got fun updates and details for you on that as well. We are at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. All right, let us return to the telephones. Michael, and I've got, today is mailbag day, and that means it's hump day in the Clinton household, you know. Hillary face down in a pool of her own dried vomit on the linoleum kitchen floor with an empty 1-gallon box of cheap New Zealand wine, Chardonnay, I believe, on the ground next to her. Bill Clinton got the Energizer coming over. It's hump day. All right, let's go to the telephones. Let's go to James, calling from Oklahoma. James, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Oh, g'day, Brace from Monty Python's Australian Philosophy Department. I don't know if Trump has a theological advisor on his committee, but actually there's a great argument from Islamic theology to strengthen their diplomatic appeal to these Islamic nations who like to claim the moral high ground because they're Muslims. Well, you point out, okay, then you're required by all the foundational Islamic religious sources that you have to exercise an extra special communitarian love above other humans, above the Jahiliyyah world. No, you are the global ummah, the community who is obligated to exercise extra special love. All the Muslims around the world who are submitted to Allah, you have to take such refugees to sojourn in your lands if you claim to be Muslims. Well, if they don't do it, then they're not on the moral high ground shooting down on us anymore. We're all on the same level.
That is good. You're right. The Ummah, the global Muslim community, looking out for their fellow Muslims, the poor, long-suffering Palestinian people. And that's been a running joke that no one will articulate out loud for many, many generations now. The Ummah looking out for fellow Muslims. Never happened. Never happened 1,000 years ago. Didn't happen 500 years ago or 200 years ago. Not happening 2 weeks ago. Not going to happen 2 weeks from now. Ask any Palestinian, so-called, about all that good stuff. Now, President Trump stirring it up with his Gaza comments, all right? And how dare you talk about rebuilding Gaza? This is one that I think will not have a long shelf life, to tell you the truth. But we shall see, because with President Trump, you never know. He looks at the Gaza and says, this place needs rebuilding. He starts thinking like a builder again, like a New York construction guy. What kind of unions do you guys have in Gaza? You think they're any worse than New York? Hard to say. We got Hamas, and then, the unions in New York City, and the Democrats in the City Hall and in the State House in Albany. They might be nearly as corrupt as Hamas. They haven't started kidnapping yet, but that might not be too far away because you know how they are. We got a lot of amazing stuff. Now, listen, I want to get to a phone call in just a sec. Then I want to get to Democrats screaming in the streets of Washington, D.C., because they're so angry about so many things, and they're threatening people, and they're all kinds of madness going on. You know, we had this midair collision in Washington, D.C., U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter and an airliner with young skaters and coaches and so on. Well, here's a headline out of that. Airport employees arrested over leaked video of mid-air collision. I think eventually every American is going to be under arrest the way that things are going at this point. The Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority workers, I would call them employees because I'm not a Soviet Bolshevik communist, were charged with making an unauthorized copy of records related to the mid-air collision. The Fox News Channel reports today. Amazing. 2 employees with the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority in D.C. are accused of leaking official airport footage of the moment when an Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines passenger flight just outside Washington Reagan National Airport into the Potomac River last week. Both men have been charged in connection with making an unauthorized copy of Airports Authority records. Maybe Joe Biden should be held to the same standard. He had, how many, thousands of classified documents in various locations, unsecured by anyone, a bunch of them over a steakhouse just off of Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. It's upstairs from Charlie Palmer's, right? Very high-end steakhouse. He wouldn't have it any other way. And then in the garage where the Corvette is parked, how about that? Should Joe Biden be held to a standard as high as the 2 guys with the airports authorities? No, is the answer, because we have 2-tiered system of justice in the United States because of the Democrat Party being as corrupt as they tragically are. So both men have been charged in connection with making an unauthorized copy of Airports Authority records related to the collision, according to the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. The suspects, now they're suspects, apparently leaked the footage to CNN, as Fox 5 DC reported. Authorities arrested and charged, listen now, Mohammed Lamin Mbenge, right? Mohammed Lamin Mbenge, 21 years old, of Rockville, Maryland, got himself a good job at the airport with computer trespass, a misdemeanor, on January 31st. Upon further investigation, meaning Mohammed narked him out, authorities arrested and charged Jonathan Savoy, 45 years old, of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, with the same crime. So, wait a minute, you can't make a quick video of the mid-air collision. And we saw this video. We've all seen the video, I think, right? But they're not allowed to make that public because it might be useful to or of interest to the American people. So the collision killed a total of 67 people. Authorities are still working to identify all the victims involved and clean debris from the Potomac River as of Tuesday. That's yesterday. Savoy was released on a summons by a magistrate, and Mbenge was booked into the Arlington County Adult Detention Center and released on his own recognizance. So that's what we got going on there. Authorities have not released any further information about the incident. You should really embed the video in here in the story online, don't you think, so everybody can look at the video. One of the videos that you've seen, no doubt. Remarkable things. Now, I mentioned President Trump going to the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl is this Sunday, and it's in New Orleans, Neo Orleans, where they had that terrorist attack by a Muslim mass murderer on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. And the Super Bowl is coming up. Now, a couple of things about the Super Bowl. Here's a headline from the left-wing Mediaite. NFL will not include "end racism" message in Super Bowl end zone for first time since 2021. It's 2025 now, and they've been including it. It's a long tradition since 2021 that they put the words "end racism" in the end zone for the Super Bowl. Fortunately, we've ended racism because the Democrats lost the election in November. So the party of the plantation and the Confederate States of America and the KKK and Jim Crow, they lost. So now we can move forward. The party of Abraham Lincoln is back in charge. And what do the Democrats do about that? Well, they shot and killed Abraham Lincoln. They shot and wounded Donald Trump. The list goes on. So the NFL, the words "end racism" will not be in the end zone. How about helmets? Can we have some kind of political message on every helmet and in every end zone? And will they always be left-wing Democrat Party political messages? So media rights for the first time since 2021, the NFL will not include its "end racism" message in the back of the end zone during the Super Bowl. Well, I think, a whole bunch of multimillionaire black guys, right, playing football there, and they're all worth, what do they got, like $20 million a year or something? Only the big stars. They're the linemen and stuff. They don't make all that much money, but they do just fine. The NFL began displaying the message in 2020 as part of the Inspire Change campaign. Yeah, give me the change in your pocket. Other messages include, "It takes all of us to loot the Walgreens down the street, and the Loot Loot Lemon and the Louis Vuitton. Stop hate," which was an expression of hate in and of itself. "Choose love." That had something to do with children being transgender, but I'm not sure what. And vote. Yeah. End racism has been a regular sight at the Super Bowl for the last few years. Sources told The Athletic that will change at Super Bowl Licks. At Super Bowl LIX, it's LIX. Between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, who's going to win the big game? But I think the Eagles might beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'll be watching. I will be watching, along with the rest of the world, I guess. So the timing of the decision, as noted in the report, is significant due to the fact that President Donald Trump is scheduled to attend the game. He will be there as a guest of the New Orleans Saints owner, Gayle Benson, according to NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy. However, it's not related. In a statement, told The Athletic that the change was made due to recent tragedies. The report continues. They had the terrorist attack right there in New Orleans, and Democrats keep shooting people, don't they, all over the country. They should stop that, I think. But never mind that. So this is the New York Post, and this is a fun one here. Trump. The MAC headline is, President Trump plans to attend Super Bowl 2025. And President Trump to attend Super Bowl 2025, becoming, listen to this, the first sitting president to do so. The first sitting president to go to a Super Bowl, Donald Trump, 2025. Imagine the security nightmare this involves. This is a Hollywood movie with Denzel Washington, I think. And President Trump suggests Chiefs favored to win. But the New York Post reports President Trump plans to attend Sunday's Super Bowl in New Orleans, becoming the first sitting commander-in-chief to attend America's biggest annual sporting event, the New York Post has learned, with the president hinting on Tuesday that he thinks the Kansas City Chiefs might win. The planned presence of Trump, 78 years old, at the Caesars Superdome. Do they have slot machines in there and stuff? Strippers. Was first reported by Punchbowl News and confirmed by federal law enforcement sources. Now, while the full traveling party has yet to be announced, House Speaker Mike Johnson, the Louisiana Republican member of the House of Representatives, and Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem are reportedly planning to join the president at the game. Sources familiar with the planning confirmed to the New York Post. Security nightmare, just a nightmare. So Trump asked about who he thought might win the Super Bowl, told reporters in the Oval Office Tuesday afternoon in his fourth press conference of the day. I promise you, he's already held more press availabilities in a couple of weeks than Joe Biden did over the course of 4 years. Pretty amazing stuff. He said, I don't want to say, President Trump, but there's a certain quarterback, right, that seems to be a pretty good winner. Almost certainly referring to Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes. You think, I don't know, look out for Philadelphia, though. They're pretty tight. You see what they did to the Washington Redskins, formerly known as Twitter. All right, they weren't formerly known as Twitter. That's true. And this is a fun story about the Super Bowl, too. You know, I and my best girl and I have had this conversation year after year, and we kind of agree that the Super Bowl should be held on Saturday. Saturday night would be fine. Saturday should be a Saturday event, not a Sunday night event, because then everybody's got to go to work in the morning, and it's, you know, and it goes to midnight or midnight 30, and then you're all spun up, and you might want to drink beer and eat a lot of food and have people over and all that stuff, right? Well, here's the headline this year from the Business Wire. It's a new record. An estimated 22.6 million U.S. employees plan to miss work on Super Bowl Monday. Isn't that amazing? 22.6 million. Now, how do they know that? Well, they don't, but it's an estimate. So, long-standing absenteeism survey shows that 2025 is expected to break the previous record of 18.8 million in 2023, a game that also featured the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs, coincidentally. An additional 12.9 million U.S. employees say that they'll go to work late on Monday after the big game. 43% of employed Americans believe the Monday after Super Bowl Sunday should be a national holiday. 43% of us now say that, according to the UKG survey. And that's up from 37% in 2024, who said that Monday after Super Bowl should be a federal holiday. Now 43%, that's up 6 percentage points for Democrats trying desperately to follow along at home. And I got to say, making Monday a federal holiday is not the fix. Having the Super Bowl on Saturday night is the fix. That's the fix. But this number of, tens of millions of Americans that are expected to miss work on Monday because of the Super Bowl, quite fascinating. And this it's an estimate by a group that measures this stuff, but remarkable. So no end racism political message in the end zone, and that's fine. A record number of Americans expected to miss work on Monday. A record number of Americans now think that Monday should be a national holiday after Super Bowl Sunday. President Trump will be the first president ever, which is kind of shocking, to attend the Super Bowl in person. Amazing stuff. Remarkable, remarkable times we live in. Am I right? I think so. And it should be Super Bowl Saturday. Solves the whole problem. You can make it the whole weekend. Really great stuff. Nobody has to take Monday off. You don't have to make Monday a holiday. How many holidays do we need? And we're at 888-630-9625. Okay, I'm torn, I've got to say. So either this or that. Tell you what, let's go to Mike, calling from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Michael, you are on the Chris Plante Show.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great, Mike. What do you know?
Well, I know that my college-age kids are really upset with me right now.
Why?
Well, I went ahead and canceled Paramount Plus and Peacock and Hulu and Discovery and Netflix because, well, I just don't need them anymore, sir.
Why don't you need Hulu and Peacock and Paramount Plus and all the other streaming services anymore?
Well, I've got all the reality show that I need. I just watch the news.
Well, that is a reality show, isn't it? So you got got 24-hour cable news, and really a lot of it is unintentional comedy, isn't it?
Exactly.
And everything is a running series because you can if you lose track today, you can tune in tomorrow and pick up where you left off, and watching CNN or MSDNC. And getting there crazy, and then you can turn to Newsmax and into other channels and say, "Oh, well, this is what's actually happening," right?
Right, and the great thing is there's no repeats.
That's true. They never run it over again. Although sometimes it seems like it, doesn't it?
Right.
But you really did cancel all yours, and this has been a big topic of conversation recently, and in fact at Newsmax with my friends at Newsmax, how many streaming services do you have? And it turns into hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month because there's one show on Paramount Plus that everybody has to watch, and there's one show on Peacock that everybody has to watch, one show on Hulu, and one show on Netflix that everybody has to watch, and if you don't watch them, then you're being left behind by the culture, right?
That's exactly right. So I will say, I'm glad that PBS is not off the air because I just started watching Sesame Street in Iraq. A little tough to understand, but
do they put out Iraqi Sesame Street on? See, I don't even doubt this, because it's so nuts. And I'll tell you what, over the airwaves here in D.C., Mike, and in a lot of other places. I've got an antenna at home, too. I've got cable TV, and I've got a couple of streaming, but not much. And then the antenna. I have a couple of TVs hooked up to the antenna. And you get about 60 channels around here over the antenna, over the airwaves, including, I think, 8 different PBS television stations.
Shh, don't tell anyone.
And we're paying for it all, right? That's
right.
Taxpayer-funded propaganda TV for the Democrat Party. And they got Channel 26 is WETA, a PBS station. And they got 26.1, 26.2, 26.3, all these digital channels. And it's left-wing propaganda on every channel. And we need to stop funding that.